Hi, welcome to another episode of the Out of Office Club. Today is all about how to make friends while traveling, because that is something that worries a lot of people when they think about solo traveling, is that it must be very lonely. And while I can see why many people think that and why it might be lonely sometimes, I also want to explain how I tackle that loneliness, how I make friends, what I do, what I recommend other people to do if they're thinking of solo traveling, especially for the first time, because I know that's the scariest one. So, if you're thinking of solo traveling, if you're worried about loneliness while solo traveling, or you just want to know more about how to make friends when you go, then this is the episode for you. First of all, solo travel is not lonely. Okay, it is truly not if you do it right. And what I mean with that is when you live in one place or you work somewhere or you've studied somewhere, it is very easy to make friends just because you're close together. There isn't much effort required. You're friends because you're in the same place. When you solo travel, you don't necessarily have that always, but you can. And that's also why it can be easy to make friends while solo traveling. So it isn't lonely, but you have to go about it a bit different. And you might have to put yourself out there a little bit more, which, yes, is scary. But I'm going to give you some tips on that as well and how you can make it easier. And even if you might be a bit more shy or introverted, it is still easy to make friends. And I don't want you to worry about this. When I first started solo traveling, I was 18. I was incredibly shy. I didn't know what I was doing. I found it very hard to talk to people and to make that first step. And if there's anything I didn't want to do is draw attention to myself. So if there was anything happening or if there was a group, I didn't have the courage to just go up to them and talk to them. But I have learned how to do that. And I've learned what works for me when I go and travel by myself. So the first thing I want to say to you, if you're nervous about solo traveling and meeting people, don't forget the people that you'll meet traveling, they're likely also alone and they also want to meet people. So it's very different to talking to someone on the street in your hometown because they're not expecting it. They're not looking for friends. They're a bit more hesitant. But when you're in a hostel, you go on a tour, if you go on to any event, those people are there because they want to make friends. So if you go and talk to them and say, hey, where are you from? They know, oh, someone else traveling alone, someone else I can, make a connection with, and they're going to want to do that. So don't be too nervous about making friends. They want to connect generally, other travelers. And if they don't, they'll also probably tell you, or they just walk away, and that's fine too. And that's also, I think, the thing that makes solo traveling so good. You have to go and meet people, and you also will meet so many more people than if you were to go and travel with someone. I know traveling with someone feels safer, but I can almost guarantee you at the end of the trip, you likely will have spent most of your time and most of your days with that person you're traveling with, and you will not have met that many other people. While if you solo travel, you'll have to. People also find it easier to come and talk to you because you're alone. There's many times where I just sat in a hostel by myself. I got food. I went back to the hostel. I just sat there at a table. And by the end of the night, there were 8 people around me. Everyone was talking. And I'd met 6 new friends. When there are 2 people, that is a bit tougher. I also don't quickly go up to people traveling together because I usually feel like, oh, they have their trip, they have their friend. Like, I don't want to bother them. Well, if there's someone alone, I'll just say, hi, can I join you? It's usually not a problem. So then the next question becomes, where do I meet those people? This all depends a little bit on how you travel. So I'll do it in 2 parts. First is as a backpacker, because for the first 6-7 years that I traveled, I did backpacking. But right now, as a digital nomad, I just go with my suitcase and I don't really stay in the same kind of accommodation. So the way I make friends now is a little bit different. But first, the backpacking, because I think a lot of people that start solo traveling, especially when they're younger, they'll go backpacking. They'll go and stay in hostels, which are amazing. But I do have some tips on what kind of hostels I would recommend to stay in, what to look for to find the best ones. Because I can guarantee the people you meet in a city or in a place, they make or break your trip. I've been to places where I've met great people, and that is probably part of the reason why I like that country or city so much. And then there have been cities where I just didn't meet anyone or didn't have great experiences. And that's also why I don't think back of that time, too fondly. Like it was fine, but it wasn't great. Well, if I met great people, I had a great time. And picking your hostel is one of the most important decisions that you're going to make in that. So, my recommendations, if you're new to all of this and you don't really know what to pick, there's a couple things a hostel should have. Not all of them, but if it has one of these things, it'll be a good choice. It is either a really good common area, and what that is kind of the living room of the hostel. It's where everyone gathers, it's where everyone goes, where they eat, where they sit, where they chat. There are sometimes hostels that just simply don't have that. It's just rooms with beds, but not a space to really sit and relax. And make sure it's cozy. If it looks too clean, if it's only got a couple of plastic chairs, no one is going to want to sit there, which means the vibe of your hostel will not be the same and it will be a lot harder to make friends. I've also stayed in hostels where maybe the common area wasn't great, but then they had a bar. So everyone in the evening would just hang out at the bar. Also lovely. Great idea. Or, and that is, I guess, the third or second, is if they have events. There's a couple hostels I stayed in where maybe the hostel itself wasn't that fancy or they didn't really have a common area, but they actively organized events almost every single day, which means you don't even have to think about meeting people. You just sign up to one of the events that are very often also free, or you pay what you want, or it's a very small contribution. And then you just go and you meet all these people that are staying at the hostel. It's like a no-brainer. It is so easy, and so many hostels do it. Even if it's just a movie night or a game night, it doesn't matter. It's an excuse to sit there and meet people, and you don't have to do any of the planning yourself. So I would highly recommend that when you are looking into booking hostels. Um, got many more tips for what makes a hostel good, but if you're looking to make friends, those are important ones. Then other options, if you are maybe not in a great hostel, if they don't have many options, would be free walking tours. They're in almost every single city in the world, I feel like. Just Google free walking tour and the city you're in. I can almost guarantee you'll find one. And how those work is they have a meeting point, usually in the city center, and then around 10 in the morning, they'll go on their city tour. It's free, and at the end, you can pay what you want. So, of course, you should tip them something for their time and effort. But many people go on those trips that are also looking to meet people, or they're alone, or they're traveling there. So, that's a great place to meet people. I've done that a couple times where I would go there alone. I've even met groups of travelers that I would then join for the next couple of days, which has always been really fun. I highly recommend that. And then, of course, if you're not staying in hostels, because hostels are great, but if you're also working, then I would not recommend staying in hostels. I really appreciate sleeping well. You generally don't really do that in hostels, at least I don't. So I stay in Airbnbs, which is great, but that means I sit alone in an apartment and there's no one to talk to. So I have to put in a bit more effort to meet people, which I don't mind because I also really enjoy being able to go back and not having to talk to anyone. And again, getting a decent night's sleep. So what I do if I am traveling by myself and staying in Airbnbs is I go to meetups. This is a website where anyone can organize an event or a meetup. They are usually paid, just a couple euros. It's a lot of language exchanges where you go and you try and learn a new language. Or they've seen hiking events as well in there. I'm not going to, but there's many types of events there and they're really good. A lot of those have been running for weeks or months or years. There's regulars that go to them sometimes, and it's always expats or long term travelers or solo travelers, at least. So I've met great people on those meetups, and they're usually just a lot of fun. I played tennis also, actually, in Japan. It's a fun way to meet people with different kind of activities that don't necessarily involve drinking. And there's many, not always, but there's many. Of course, your other options, which I'm not a fan of and I don't really recommend it, is to go by a bar by yourself. I think, like, I'm a woman, I don't really fancy going to a bar myself. Like, I want to make friends, not get hit on. So I don't do that, but I know people that do enjoy it and they get to talk to people a little bit. So that's an option. In some countries, Facebook events or like groups are still quite big, so that could always be worth checking out. There's something happening there. And then if that's all not really your style or still feels too scary for your first solo trip, there's also organized group trips that you can do. I've done 2 now where you just sign up, you pick the trip that you want to do, and it's really fun because you get your group of people that you travel with. There's generally always other solo travelers. I've been on one trip where it was just the 4 of us and we were all solo traveling. I've been on a trip that was 25 people. That was through South America. And that was about 50-50. Half was alone, half was with a partner or with a friend. But because you spend weeks together, you get to know everyone really well. And it really is a lot of fun. So that is also a really, really good way to get into solo traveling. Just because you want to solo travel doesn't mean you immediately have to go get your backpack and travel to the other side of the world. Like, make it easy for yourself. You have nothing to prove. And if you go on your own on one of those group trips, that is still solo traveling. And it kind of eases you into meeting people, socializing, everything that kind of comes with solo traveling. So that's a really good option. I mean, my first solo trip was just a train to Berlin. I'm from the Netherlands, so that's like a couple hours. It's not far. If I didn't like it, I can go take the next train back. Don't make it all too complicated. You're solo traveling in whatever way that you want to start, and that is completely fine. I have another friend actually who her first solo trip was through the country. So she's also Dutch. She just did a little train trip through the Netherlands and she loved it and she learned so much and she had such great experiences. So do that then. People, I think, also with social media feel like they have to make these great grand trips across the other side of the world and, I don't know, hike up some massive mountain. You don't. Go on a first trip by yourself. That's scary enough. That is brave enough. And then from there, you'll know if you like it and what your next trip is going to be. Apart from meetup or going to group trips, something else that I highly recommend that I've done now once that I enjoyed was co-living spaces. These are kind of a combination of co-working place and a apartment together. So in a co-working place, people go there, they hire a desk, they work there for the day, and then they go back home. But with co-living, you get that co-working experience where everyone works in the same area, but then you also stay in the same apartment where usually you either have your own room or you share it with 1 or 2 people. But this is really good for digital nomads because you don't have to put in that much effort to meet anyone because you're in the same apartment. Everyone generally is a little bit older because they're working online and not just backpacking, which of course is just a different way to travel. And it's really easy and fun. And instead of sitting in an apartment by yourself for a month, you sit with 10 to 15 other people who have the same lifestyle as you. So that is something else that I highly recommend you to look into if you already maybe have an online or remote job. There were also people there that had a remote job at a company that then just wanted to work from somewhere else and they could, so they did co-living space. That is also a really, really good option. So those are the ways that I make friends. And of course, you really have to put yourself out there. You have to put in the effort. You have to go and talk to people, which I know is scary, but honestly, it's, again, everyone's there to meet people. Some easy ways that I think you can start conversations is you just ask how long they've been staying there, what they thought of the city so far, if they have any recommendations, any tips on where to eat tonight if you're looking for a restaurant. That's how I've met people where I just been like, oh, do you know where I could eat? And they go, oh, actually, there's a really nice place that we're gonna go to now. Do you want to join? One question, and suddenly you have friends and you have people to hang out with. It truly is very easy when you travel, especially in hostels. So you can say anything. People have just said, hi, what's your name? And then you have a conversation. Don't overthink this. It will come a lot more natural than you think. People will start talking to you a lot more than you might think as well. So don't worry. Um, as a bit of a warning though, traveling alone, it will sometimes feel lonely. Again, I don't think it is, and it is not scary and it's not lonely, but it will feel like that sometimes because you are far away from home. You've only got yourself, and sometimes you will feel lonely, and that is completely okay. That is normal. You also cannot always be social. Imagine if you're in a hostel, you're surrounded by people almost all the time. There's people in your room, there's people in the restaurant, in the kitchen, in the common area. There's people everywhere all the time. So at some point, your social battery will run out and you will want distance. You will want to be a bit alone until you start to feel lonely and you feel like, okay, I'm ready. I want to have people around me again. And that's a constant kind of up and down. And there will be moments or places where you'll stay that will make you feel lonely. I've stayed in places where I wasn't happy, where I found it really hard to meet people. And you'll get through that. You can go to a different place. You might have to try any of the other ways to meet people instead of just in the hostel or place you're staying. And all of that will pass, I think. And something to remember if you do go and solo travel, truly, there is in the end nothing you cannot solve. If you really feel bad in a place, book something else. I've cancelled multiple hostels, left multiple places because I wasn't happy. I was lonely. I didn't feel good. So I fixed it. And you can't too. It also teaches you how to be alone. Before I went solo traveling, I think, not once been out to dinner by myself. And now I don't even think twice about it. If I'm hungry, I go out for dinner. I sit there by myself, table for one. I don't care. I don't mind. I know how to entertain myself. I don't feel awkward. I sit there, I journal, I watch people, I listen to a podcast. But the first couple times I went out for dinner by myself, I felt nervous. I felt watched. Again, that is all practice. So you'll learn how to be alone, how to just be with yourself. You'll get better at that. And that is honest, that's a skill. That's a skill you can learn. And I think it's an important one too, because you can't always rely on other people to entertain you and be there for you. You'll learn to rely on yourself. And that is something else. Being alone doesn't mean you're lonely. I am alone, I guess, quite a lot, you could say. I travel alone, I work alone, but I rent apartments alone. But I don't often feel lonely because I like also being alone and I get to experience great things by myself, sometimes with people, and that to me both is fine. And I can also guarantee you that people you'll meet while traveling, you will have, or you'll make such great friendships from that. You'll have the best experiences with the people that you met traveling. I've met some of my best friends while traveling, and sometimes I've met people that I had such a great connection with and I had an amazing time with, and then we never spoke again. And that is fine too. But I still have amazing memories with these people, and that to me is worth it, because you cannot expect to keep in touch with everyone you meet. That's just impossible. But I don't think that's what it's about necessarily. And that's something that some people don't like, that they say, oh, yeah, but then you meet someone and you never speak again. Yeah, but I did meet someone incredible, and they told me all amazing stories, and we, made some great memories, and I never speak to them. That's okay. I'd rather have 5 really good friends that I have than 100 not so good ones. And if we're not meant to, stay in touch or talk that much, that's fine. That's okay. We're still friends, and if we're ever in the same place, they might reach out to me or I might reach out to them. We might see each other again, and that would be amazing. And I'm just very happy that I got to meet them and I got to have these great experiences with them and make these memories. And that moment's passed, and that's okay. That's part of it, and that sometimes is very difficult when you do have to say goodbye to someone. But to me, that's worth it. So I hope that that might have answered some of your questions about solo traveling and what it is like, how you can meet people. If you still have questions, concerns, then send me a message on Instagram or write a comment wherever you're listening or watching this. I'll try my best to respond. And yeah, if you enjoyed the podcast, I'm recording a podcast every week. So if you enjoyed it, then please subscribe and leave a review. It really, really helps. And then I hope to see you again next week. Thank you so much. Bye bye.